Welcome to J Lowe Artist. Today we're going to be doing linear perspective. Once you understand it, it's quite liberating and you can be very, very creative with it, create some wonderful depth. And if you understand linear perspective and value and how they go together to create depth and form, it's a wonderful thing. Really appreciate you being here, appreciate you drawing along with me. So let's try some linear perspective. Thanks for being here today and drawing with me. This is going to be 1-point linear perspective. Now, up to this point, we've been outside. Now it's time to come inside. And of course, when we're inside, we're in a building, and usually rooms are rectangular. So, make yourself a room. I'm going to do a little rectangle. And you can put it anywhere you want to put it. I'm just going to do mine right here. Try to make sure that your edges are horizontal and vertical. Line them up with the edge of your paper. Both horizontally and vertically. Make sure that they're as close as you can get to horizontal and vertical. So there's my rectangle. That rectangle represents the back wall. So as you're looking forward, that wall that you're looking into is rectangular. And notice the edges of the ceiling, and if you could see them, the edges of the floor, they all recede to a point right straight out in front of you. Your vanishing point is always right out in front of you. And if you kneel down, the vanishing point goes down with you. If you stand up, the vanishing point goes with you. So that is your point of view. Now, inside that rectangle somewhere is your point of view. Where is it? I don't know. I'm just going to put mine right there. It's not, I don't like it right smack dab in the middle. That's kind of boring. So I'm going to put it off to the side somewhere, about a third of the way through. No, there's that rule of thirds. It makes things a little more interesting. So there's my vanishing point. It's implied that there is an eye level line here. I don't have to draw that eye level line. We know it's there. And go from your vanishing point through each corner and draw the line coming out. Vanishing point through the corner and draw the line out. Vanishing point through the corner. And don't worry about edges of your paper. Some people think you have to go to the corner of your paper. No, those corners are just, this is your picture plane. That's just the end of your picture. Vanishing point through the corner. Draw the line out. Now, just doing that alone starts to give us the illusion of depth, the illusion that we're in something. But the more you draw, the more you put into that, the more your illusion is complete. And isn't that what this is all about, is creating illusions, the illusion of depth? Anytime we do form, like when we do shading, that's creating the illusion of depth. Linear perspective is another way of creating the illusion of depth. If you put the two together, you can create some really wonderful illusions of depth. So once you get that part done, let's create a tiled floor. Now we'll just do it on the bottom part. If you'd like to, you can do it on the ceiling. You can have it doing this way. Then your room looks tall and thin. Or, and one thing I do want to show you, wherever you put that vanishing point creates a feeling to your viewer. If your vanishing point is high, your room looks small. I mean, if I did something like this, everybody would feel like they were in this little tiny box. But if I turned it this way, then all of a sudden the room looks large. And all of a sudden you're tiny because your vanishing point is clear down here. Does that make sense? Where you put that vanishing point dictates what your viewer will feel when they look at your artwork. Whether they feel small or whether are large or whether they feel small. So that vanishing point, where you put it is up to you, but remember that your viewer will see it the way you want them to see it. That's where that vanishing point goes. So in order to do tiles, you need equal measurements. So along the bottom of this edge, I'm going to do some marks, and I'm going to do every 1/2 inch. Now my last one, I'm a little short. So if I were laying tile in this room, I'd have to cut all those. So then all I have to do now is I go from my vanishing point through each of those marks that I just made, draw my line out. And it will fan around your vanishing point. This will help to create the illusion of depth. Now I can think of Brunelleschi doing this 600 years ago, and thinking to himself, "Wow, this really looks good." After Brunelleschi figured this all out, it changed art. It's amazing. All of a sudden, people are figuring things out, and their artwork becomes more realistic. The Renaissance hits about that time. Well, Brunelleschi was part of the Renaissance. And if you look at Renaissance paintings, some of them look very, very realistic, almost photographic, because they finally figured out linear perspective. And again, you can use this concept for creating shelves. Shelves on a wall. If you go like this, then you're looking down on them. Do this, then you're looking up. Lights on a ceiling could be done that way. Anything that recedes into space, make sure you go to that vanishing point and it'll look fine. It'll look just right. Now, just like our fence post that we just did, we need 2 reference lines. So the first reference line, I'm just going to put close to my edge. You can even use your edge if you want to, but I'm just going to put this close to my edge. Try to make it as parallel as you can, parallel to the edge of your room, parallel to your page. There's one line. And now I get to make another line. And just like my fence post, I just look at it and go, where does it go? Is it going to go up here? No, that's too much. Is it going to go down here? No, that's too little. I just got to move my ruler until I'm about where I want it to be. And that looks about right to me. So that's where I'm going to put that line. Okay, so we're going to call this first line, line A, and the second line, line B. Now we have to figure out where line C goes. And just like our fence post here, we can make a X, figure out where the center is and do all that. But we have all these other lines. Let's use those to our advantage. So what I do is I come to find the first square that I can see all 4 corners. I can use this one because I can see all 4 corners here. This one I could probably guess because it's pretty close to the edge. But this one is going to be easier for me. I've got all 4 corners. All I have to do is one diagonal line. So I'm going to go one diagonal line from corner to corner. I'm going to do a dashed line. You do not have to draw this dashed line. But you need to make marks along where this line meets up with these other lines. So I've made little marks. You just say this is where they all meet. This is where they meet together on that diagonal. And that tells me where to put my next parallel line. I can't do that on this last one because that wasn't a complete square. Remember, that one was off just a little bit. They have to be exact same measurements. So all I have to do is now take my ruler, and again, I'm going to try to line them up, make sure that they're all parallel to the last line I did, parallel to the edge of the paper, parallel to the edge of my room, right there. And that tells me where to put my next line. So that's line C. Well, line D just goes right here, and E and F and G and H and I, and then all of a sudden, now if I get to I over here, let's just do these. some of you, because your lines were big enough, your room was big enough, you may not have to do this. But some of you might. If your rectangle was smaller, and just go through the floor, don't go all the way through the walls. Again, line them up, make sure everything is parallel. Those grafting rulers are really nice when you're doing this. Okay, now I'm down to my bottom. This is the last one. What do? I still have all those tiles left. Well, if these were square or rectangular and it all worked out this way, it doesn't matter where you go. I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to go from this one, and wherever they cross, I'm going to make a mark. Mark, 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 mark. And that's the last one because now I'm so close that they lined up. I just finished it up. You may have to do this twice, depending on how big your rectangle was to begin with, where your eye level line is and your vanishing point. Sometimes you have to account for the thickness of your pencil too. So when you lay your ruler in, sometimes you have to account for that. Just a thought. You all know that, right? You've done this before. Maybe not this exact thing, but again, your urge is to tilt your ruler because there's an optical illusion that happens with these lines that go this way. Don't tilt your ruler. Just line it up with something. Got to fight against that urge to tilt your ruler. And voila, you're done. This gives you more illusion of depth. And if it's right, if you did it right, you're going to look at it and think, wow, that looks really good. If not, you're going to look at it and go, oh, something's wonky. Then analyze it. Which line is off? Sometimes that affects everything else. We need some windows. We need some openings here. So let me show you how to do windows. For windows, you can put them anywhere you want to put them. They can be anywhere. However, if you do a window in the back wall, which you could do, but you need to do two windows somewhere else. So just going to avoid the back wall for now. I'm going to do a window right here. And I'm just going to draw a line. This window, this line represents the size of my window. I want it that tall and I want it right there. And you can go towards your vanishing point. In other words, your window could be right there. Or you can go away from your vanishing point. It could be right here. It does not matter. Either way, you just go from the top and bottom of that line and draw to your vanishing point or away from your vanishing point. So in this case, I want my window right here. And draw it away. And you go as far as you want it to go. And then connect those with a parallel line. My front edge is vertical, straight up and down. My back edge has to be vertical, straight up and down. Okay, I have a question for you. Is that a window or is it a poster on the wall? Does it look three-dimensional or does it look flat? If you want it to look three-dimensional, you just need to add some horizontal, vertical lines and maybe a few orthogonal lines. So, for example, just like we did our boxes on the other side, all we need is a little line to go here. It's got to be very horizontal. So I'm lining it up with the edge of my ceiling there, making sure that that's nice and horizontal. And then I'm going to draw that line out. You can draw it as wide as you want it to be. This represents the thickness of your wall. And I'm going to do one on the bottom. And since it's very close to my eye level line, it's going to be very, very thin. You might hardly see it at all. But I'm going to draw it in there because I know it's there. Little tiny one. If my wall if my window were deeper, let's say it goes down here, I'm going to create a doggy window. My dog likes to look out the window. So here's a doggy window. This is so my dog can look out the window and doesn't have to climb on the furniture to do it. There's my doggy window. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to just line up with the edge of my floor, make sure it's nice and level, nice and horizontal, and there's a line that comes out there. Now I'm just going to connect all those. I'm going to try to be as vertical as I can, as parallel as I can. Now this represents looking into the wall. And I'm going to see the top here too. Just like if you were looking out the doorway there, you'll see the door jamb, top and bottom and sides. I'm going to go to my vanishing point. Draw the line out. I can barely see this one, just barely. And then one on the very bottom. I don't see the one on the top because it's below my eye level line. I'd never see it. Now it looks like you can go through that little area. Or that something's coming through here. Maybe I have a friend that comes to visit. How'd you know? He's got pointy ears. Great big eyes. And maybe he's got his little fingers over my windowsill. He's only got 2 fingers. He's got weird legs too. So there's my little alien friend. Does anybody know what it's called when you take one object and put it over the top of another object? Layering or overlapping. Anytime you overlap an object, it's going to help your things to look more realistic. So you can do a bunch of overlapping. You can have objects that come like, you wanted something that came out of your floor. Let's say there's a tree that comes out of the floor and it's right here. Erase what's behind it. This is why you have this eraser. There's just so much you do with linear perspective. You just have to erase a ton. So maybe there's, a tree that's growing out. We'll make it an alien tree. Like a cactus? Like a Joshua tree? Okay, maybe it's a dead tree. I don't know. But anytime you have overlapping, it helps to create that illusion of depth. So there's lots of different things you can do there. If you wanted a doorway, you can do the same thing. Maybe I've got a doorway over here. You decide where you want to put it, how thick you want it, where you want it. Once you understand linear perspective, it becomes very easy to do. And then you can be very creative with it. But you got to understand linear perspective first. And then say, oh, okay, there's my doorway. And let me say, I want this wall to continue on the other side, and do that too. And you can even continue your tiles through that. Then that opened up that room right there. Now you can go inside. You could have something coming through there, like, I don't know, a dragon head. And even your dragon head can be in kind of perspective. I mean, again, if you understand what's going on with it, makes things easier to draw. And put some fangs on him because dragons need fangs. Okay, does that make sense? So this has become surreal. This is fantasy, surreal, kind of dreamlike, kind of weird. For this project, it's fun to be weird. Thanks for coming along on this journey. Thanks for doing linear perspective with me. Have a lovely day. And remember, art makes life better.